Human civilization is a machine held together by rules. But some of those rules weren't written by geniuses, they were written by madmen. From making it illegal for a donkey to sleep in a bathtub to requiring a government permit to be reincarnated, we have found the absolute dumbest, most baffling laws governing public behavior. These aren't just quirky suggestions. They're the official instructions for how not to live. 1. In Sweden, that sudden urge to start a dance party in a public square could technically make you an outlaw. It's not about being a nuisance, it's about paperwork. A bizarrely persistent law requires an official government permit for any spontaneous public dancing, a relic from an era of tightly controlled dance halls. This means your joyful flash mob isn't seen as a celebration of life, but as an act of unlicensed choreography. The police aren't judging your rhythm, they're judging your failure to file the proper forms with the Ministry of Fun. 2. That architectural masterpiece of a sandcastle you're building on vacation in Spain? You might be breaking ground on an illegal structure. In certain municipalities, like on the beaches of Tenerife, creating a large sand edifice requires a permit, just like a real building. This single rule masterfully transforms a timeless, joyful family activity into an act of bureaucratic defiance. You can just picture a sand inspector arriving with a clipboard to issue a demolition order for your sandy fortress because the moat is 6 inches too wide. 3. Let's set a scene. You're in Scotland, you've had a few too many fine whiskeys, and you're stumbling home with the help of a very sturdy, very sober companion, who happens to be a cow. Congratulations, you're now a criminal. A magnificent 1872 law makes it illegal to be drunk while in charge of cattle. It was designed to prevent tipsy herdsmen from causing bovine mayhem, but it creates a perfect mental image of a man trying to pass a field sobriety test where his only alibi just moose. Who do you think a judge would believe, the drunk guy or the cow? 4. Get ready for a piece of legal logic so twisted it could only come from the 19th century. Inside a British pub, it is against the law for you to actually be drunk. The 1872 Licensing Act makes the pub owner legally responsible for not permitting drunkenness on their premises. This creates the world's most perfect business paradox. Their job is to sell you something that makes you happy, but not so happy that you cross an invisible legal line of intoxication, turning their best customers into their biggest liabilities. 5. For decades, an entire generation of Canadian kids were unknowingly living as outlaws. Until its very recent repeal in 2018, an archaic federal law made it a crime to pretend to practice witchcraft. While aimed at fraudulent fortune tellers, its language was so broad that any kid waving a stick and yelling "expecto patronum" was technically committing a federal offense. It's a hilarious thought. For years, the greatest threat to a Canadian wizard wasn't Voldemort. It was the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. 6. Imagine a town council meeting where someone says, "I know how we can look more productive. Let's ban sleep." That's essentially what happened in Ecuador, Spain, when they passed an ordinance to outlaw the traditional siesta. The goal was to shed an image of laziness. This is like a beach town banning the ocean to seem less beachy. Unsurprisingly, the attempt to criminalize a biological imperative failed spectacularly, proving that the ancient power of a post-lunch carb coma will always triumph over misguided local politics. 7. In London, a single moment of pure, unadulterated winter joy could land you in hot water. According to a surprisingly durable law from 1839, it's illegal to make or use any slide upon ice or snow on a public street if it might pose a common danger. This hilarious statute treats a simple giggling slide on a frozen puddle as a gateway to citywide chaos. It frames a harmless bit of fun as a threat to public order, as if a 5-foot skid is the first step towards total societal collapse. 8. Some laws don't just regulate people, they also regulate their laundry's social calendar. In certain parts of Scotland, ancient Sabbath observance laws mean it's technically illegal to hang your clothes out to dry on a Sunday. This injects an absurd level of moral gravity into your weekend chores, turning Saturday night into a frantic race against a theological clock. It's a world where your damp socks are legally required to take a day of rest, holding them to a higher standard of piety than most humans. 9. Here's a piece of crucial career advice for aspiring Irish ship inspectors. Whatever you do, do not fall in love with the ships. An old Merchant Shipping Act disqualifies anyone from the job if their judgment could be affected by an emotional connection to a vessel. It's a brilliant anti-corruption measure, but it hilariously suggests that if you've ever patted a ship's hull and whispered, "You're a good boat," you are simply too compromised to be objective. Your career could be sunk by an overly affectionate relationship with a cargo freighter. 10. To successfully clean a rug in London, you need the skills of a covert operative. The Metropolitan Police Act of 1839 forbids beating or shaking a carpet in the street, but grants a bizarre exception for doormats, and only before 8 a.m. This law turns a mundane chore into a pre-dawn clandestine mission. You're forced to choose between a clean house and a clean criminal record, all for the crime of fighting dust bunnies. So what's worse, a little dust in the street or a perpetually dirty living room? 11. In Australia, stubbing your toe on a curb can be a surprisingly expensive mistake. It's not the medical bill you need to worry about, it's the fine. In many public places, letting out a stream of curses after a moment of intense pain can get you ticketed for using offensive language. This law operates under the fantasy that humans, when subjected to sudden, sharp agony, are programmed to politely whisper, "Oh dear me." In reality, you're just a person in pain, suddenly facing a legal penalty for reacting like, well, a person in pain. 12. Once upon a time in South Carolina, the simple act of dancing on a Sunday was considered a one-way ticket to damnation and possibly jail. For decades, the state rigorously enforced archaic blue laws that banned all public dancing on the Sabbath. While most of these have been relaxed, it paints a glorious picture of a time when the waltz was seen as the first step on a slippery slope to total moral depravity. Secret dance parties weren't just about avoiding the cops. They were a form of spiritual rebellion, a foxtrot in the face of fire and brimstone. 13. We've all been there. Another driver does something so monumentally stupid that your hand is magnetically drawn to the car horn. Well, in the United Kingdom, that cathartic blast of fury is against the law. The highway code strictly forbids using your horn aggressively. So that person who just cut you off and is now double parked? Legally, your only recourse is to take a deep breath and think calm, orderly, tea and crumpets thoughts. This rule essentially criminalizes a core part of the driving experience. How many drivers do you know who would be bankrupt within a week if this was strictly enforced? 14. In Canada, attempting to pay for your coffee with a giant bag of pennies isn't just annoying for the cashier, it's literally against the law. The Currency Act of 1985 sets strict limits on how many coins you can use in a single transaction. For example, if your purchase is over $10, they can legally refuse payment in pennies. This law beautifully transforms your piggy bank from a symbol of savings into a potential instrument of a minor federal crime. It's a country where your 26th penny can be the one that gets you in trouble. 15. In one town in the Philippines, that juicy bit of gossip you're about to share could cost you. The town of Binalonan passed an ordinance that fines people for spreading rumors, essentially outlawing one of humanity's oldest and most beloved pastimes. This creates a wonderfully paranoid social landscape. You can just picture two neighbors whispering over a fence, then suddenly freezing as a police car drives by, as if they were in the middle of a high-stakes intelligence exchange instead of just debating the questionable color of Brenda's new garden gnome. 16. Do you walk your dog enough? In Turin, Italy, that's not just a question for your conscience. It's a question for the government. A local law requires that dogs be walked at least 3 times a day, with owners facing fines up to €500 for non-compliance. This brilliantly creates the need for a hypothetical Pooch Patrol, a special unit dedicated to canine wellness checks. If your bulldog decides he's only in the mood for 2 strolls today, you're not just a lazy owner. You're a repeat offender in the eyes of the state. 17. Here's a bizarre legal trap for you. In the UK, if you find yourself holding the rope to a large, unmanned hot air balloon, you are legally forbidden from letting it go. The Civil Aviation Act makes it an offense to let it drift away. Imagine the scenario. You're helping a friend, holding the line, and they disappear to get a coffee. You are now legally shackled to this giant buoyant object, unable to simply walk away. You've become a prisoner, held captive by a wicker basket and a very specific piece of aviation law. 18. You're at a parking meter, frantically searching your pockets just a few cents short. In the UK, turning to a stranger and asking for that spare change is technically illegal. The law, designed to curb aggressive begging, accidentally criminalizes one of the most common and desperate urban pleas. It feels like a rule secretly written by the parking meter companies themselves, ensuring that every moment of minor forgetfulness results in a major fine. Your only legal option is to stand there, watch the timer hit 0, and accept your fate. So, who's the real criminal here? The person asking for a dime or the system that fines you $50 for being 10 cents short? 19. In a small town in Alberta, Canada, that classic Carnival shooting game is strictly forbidden. A local bylaw makes it illegal to discharge a firearm at a target for any prize or reward. The law exists for obvious safety reasons, but it also effectively kills the dream of winning a giant, poorly stitched teddy bear by proving your marksmanship. It's a town that has officially chosen public safety over the thrill of shattering a ceramic plate with a pellet gun. And frankly, that just feels a little less fun. 20. This is not a drill. In Tel Aviv, Israel, it is explicitly illegal to bring a bear to the beach. This law is a masterpiece of specificity, because it means that at some point in history, this was enough of a problem that someone had to write it down. I don't need to know the details, but I desperately want to meet the person, or people, who made this rule necessary. You can just picture a bear in sunglasses trying to relax on a towel, being politely asked to leave by lifeguards because he's violating a city ordinance. 21. Flying a kite seems like the definition of harmless, picturesque fun, right? Well, in Victoria, Australia, it can be a punishable offense. An old law makes it illegal to fly a kite in a public place to the annoyance of any person. This is a masterpiece of subjective legislation. It means your entire day of fun can be legally dismantled by one grumpy person who simply decides your kite is too kite-like. It's a law that gives veto power over joy to the least joyful person in the park. 22. In France, the vow, "Till death do us part," is more of a suggestion. The country has a law allowing for posthumous marriage, also known as necrogamy. If you can prove you intended to marry someone before they passed away, you can legally go through with the ceremony. It creates the deeply surreal image of a wedding where one half of the couple is represented by a photograph. It's a strange and somber law, born from wartime tragedies, that raises some truly unique questions. Chief among them, what exactly do you get them for the first anniversary? 23. There is no greater sin in the unwritten British social contract than cutting in line. But on the London Underground, that sin is very much written down. A Transport for London bylaw makes it a prosecutable offense to queue jump. This is the only place on Earth where a nation's collective, passive-aggressive glare has been codified into actual law with the power to fine you. It's a beautiful, terrifying system where social decorum is enforced with the full weight of the government. 24. In New York City, the simple, eco-friendly act of drying your laundry in the open air can make you a neighborhood pariah and potentially an outlaw. Many upscale co-op boards and even local ordinances have banned outdoor clotheslines, deeming them an aesthetic blight that lowers property values. This puts residents in a bizarre moral conflict. Do you save energy and embrace green living? Or do you protect your neighbor from the horrifying sight of your freshly washed socks? It's a battle between environmentalism and the iron fist of a homeowners association. 25. In England, the nation that gave the world modern football, A simple kickabout in the street could technically make you a public offender. A surprisingly resilient bylaw forbids playing any game or sport in the road if it causes annoyance to residents. This beautifully reframes a cherished childhood pastime as a public order offense. So that kid dreaming of becoming the next superstar? In the cold, unfeeling eyes of a 19th century law, he's just a public nuisance waiting to happen. 26. Here's a law that could only come from one place. In Florida, if a woman falls asleep under a salon hairdryer, the salon owner can be fined. This isn't about safety, it's just a bizarrely specific regulation. It transforms what should be a relaxing salon visit into a high-stakes mission to remain conscious. You can just picture the hairstylist anxiously monitoring their client's eyelids, ready to clap loudly not out of concern, but out of a desperate fear of getting a citation from the salon sleep squad. 27. Taxi drivers in the UK have some very specific restrictions on their cargo. According to the Public Health Act, it is illegal for them to transport either a rabid dog or a human corpse. Now, on their own, both of those rules make perfect sense. But the fact that they needed to be specified together in the same section of the law is a masterpiece of legislative weirdness. It really makes you wonder what kind of unbelievably terrible Tuesday one particular cabbie had to inspire that specific clarification. 28. In Washington state, that fake it till you make it philosophy could land you in legal trouble. A state law makes it a crime to falsely represent yourself as wealthy or connected in order to get credit. In the modern world, this could technically be applied to social media. That Instagram post of you on a yacht you don't own, with the hashtag #SeeYouBlessed? It might not just be cringeworthy, it could be Exhibit A in a fraud case. It's a law that threatens to turn influencers into inmates. 29. In French school cafeterias, ketchup is treated like a controlled substance. This isn't about health. It's an act of cultural preservation. The government severely restricts its availability to protect traditional French cuisine from what they see as the creeping influence of American fast food culture. You have to imagine a thriving black market in the schoolyard. Kids smuggling in Heinz packets like contraband, all for a taste of forbidden tomatoey freedom for their fries. It's a law that treats a condiment with the gravity of a state secret. 30. In Gainesville, Georgia, they take their fried chicken very, very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that a 1961 city ordinance makes it illegal to eat it with a fork. You are required by law to use your hands. While it's mostly a quirky publicity stunt today, the ordinance is still on the books. This creates the incredible image of a police officer dramatically slapping the silverware out of an unsuspecting tourist's hand to uphold the culinary honor of the city. So what do you think? Is this a charming local tradition or just poultry-based tyranny? 31. Zipping through London on an electric scooter? You'd better watch your attitude. An ancient law, originally written for horse-drawn carriages, is now being applied to modern transport, making it illegal to ride furiously. This creates the magnificent and impossible job of a police officer having to objectively measure the fury level of a scooter rider. I would love to see the official training manual for that. Is it based on their speed, the clenching of their jaw, the intensity of their stare? It's a beautifully unenforceable rule. 32. We all have to clear our throats from time to time. But in Barcelona, that simple biological act could be a very expensive mistake. The city has an incredibly strict law against spitting in public, with fines that can run into the hundreds of euros. This elevates a gross habit into a major financial offense. You can picture a tourist, about to clear their throat, suddenly remembering the rule and having a moment of pure, awkward, internal panic. It's a city that essentially charges you a luxury tax for something your mom just used to yell at you for. 33. In Wisconsin, America's dairyland, their love for cheese is not just a cultural quirk, it's enshrined in the law. An old statute, still technically on the books, makes it illegal for a restaurant to serve apple pie without offering a slice of cheese with it. This is not a friendly suggestion. It is a dairy-based mandate. It transforms a simple dessert order into a test of the state's core identity. Forget, you want fries with that? In Wisconsin, the real question is, are you going to have the legally sanctioned cheddar with that pie, or are you some kind of monster? 34. Dreaming of that dramatic movie moment where you stand up and object at a wedding? The state of South Australia would like to personally crush that dream with the threat of a $10,000 fine and 2 years in prison. The law doesn't care if you're declaring undying love. It sees you as intentionally disrupting a legal ceremony. It's the ultimate guarantee that nobody ruins the wedding photos. The state demands you speak now or forever hold your peace, preferably from behind bars. 35. When visiting the ancient ruins in Greece, be aware that your outfit is subject to final approval by the security guards. There is a strict, if unwritten, dress code banning indecent clothing out of respect for the sites. This effectively turns the guards at the Acropolis into stern fashion critics. They are the last line of defense, protecting 2,500-year-old marvels from the existential threat of an overly casual t-shirt or shorts that are an inch too short. When you visit, you're not just dressing for the heat. You're dressing to appease the ghosts of antiquity. 36. In Petrolia, Ontario, you can be fined for being too happy, too loudly. A town bylaw restricts excessive noise at all times, and that explicitly includes whistling, yelling, and singing. The rule states no one should yell, shout, hoot, whistle, or sing on any public street at any time. So that cheerful person strolling down the street whistling a happy tune? They're not spreading joy. They're a public nuisance, one jaunty note away from a citation. 37. For most of us, 8 a.m. is just the start of the workday. In 19th century London, it was a hard legal deadline for your morning chores. An 1847 law made it an offense to wash your windows or clean your doorstep after that hour if it inconvenienced passersby. It creates the hilarious image of someone frantically scrubbing their front step at 7:59 a.m., racing against a legal deadline as if they were defusing a bomb. The early bird gets the worm, but in old London, the late riser got a fine for the crime of having a clean house. 38. In the United States, it's illegal to interrupt a church service. But in Alabama, it's especially illegal to do it while wearing a disguise. A specific law forbids anyone from disrupting a religious congregation while wearing a mask or hood. This wasn't to stop bad Halloween pranks. It was a post-Civil War law aimed squarely at the KKK. But today, it paints the absurd picture of someone facing 2 charges, one for being a nuisance, and a second, more serious one for doing it with a bad sense of style. 39. Michael Jackson's moonwalk is one of the most iconic dance moves in history. But in New York City, performing it after dark could technically be a misdemeanor. A real, if rarely enforced, city ordinance makes it illegal to walk backwards after sunset. It was likely intended as a safety measure, but it creates the wonderful image of a police officer stopping someone mid-glide, not to ask for an autograph, but to issue a citation for being too smooth of a criminal. 40. In Barbados, your favorite pair of camouflage shorts could get you arrested. It's strictly illegal for any non-member of the military to wear any kind of camouflage clothing. This isn't a friendly fashion suggestion from the tourist board. It's a matter of national security law. You can just picture a confused tourist being pulled aside at the airport, not for any actual contraband, but because their cargo pants are considered a potential threat to the state. It's the one place on Earth where the fashion police are a literal branch of law enforcement. 41. In the United Kingdom, some fish are more equal than others. Thanks to an ancient and gloriously bizarre law that's still on the books, any sturgeon caught off the coast is legally considered royal property. But it gets weirder. The law specifically dictates that the head of the fish belongs to the king, while the tail belongs to the queen. It's a beautiful, pointless, and magnificent rule that forces you to imagine a palace official having to awkwardly explain to a fisherman why he needs to surrender his catch for royal division. 42. In Switzerland, even your commitment to recycling can make you a criminal if you do it on a Sunday. It's illegal to make excessive noise on the legally mandated day of rest, and that includes the sound of glass bottles clanking into a public recycling bin. It forces you to become a recycling ninja. You're there, clutching an empty wine bottle, creeping toward the container like a jewel thief, knowing that one clink too many could make you the most wanted eco-criminal on your block. 43. This might be the most absurd law on the entire planet. In China, it is illegal to be reincarnated without the government's permission. This is not a joke. A 2007 law from the State Administration for Religious Affairs requires Buddhist monks to submit an application for reincarnation to several government bodies. It's a political move to control Tibetan Buddhism, but the result is the most surreal piece of bureaucracy ever conceived. Imagine a soul trying to ascend, only to be stopped by a celestial bureaucrat asking, "Reincarnation permit, please?" 44. If you enjoy your soup with a certain auditory enthusiasm, be warned. In Trenton, New Jersey, that could make you a public menace. A city ordinance makes it illegal to slurp your soup at a public eatery. This creates the incredible image of an undercover soup crimes unit, lurking in diners, listening not for trouble, but for the telltale sound of someone enjoying their ramen a little too much. It's a city that bravely decided to legislate against bad table manners, and your mother would be incredibly proud. 45. In Germany, that soft, fluffy pillow on your bed could be legally classified as a passive weapon. In a court of law, if a pillow is used aggressively, say, to smother someone, it can be considered an instrument of assault, putting it in a similar legal category to brass knuckles. So that innocent-looking pillow fight you had at a sleepover? In a very specific and strange legal context, it could be interpreted as a full-on brawl with passive weapons. Suddenly, slumber parties seem a lot more hardcore, don't they? Don't. 46. You're at a London park, and your dog starts getting a little too friendly with a particularly well-groomed corgi. You'd better hope that corgi isn't royalty. An old British law makes it illegal to permit your commoner pet to mate with a pet from the royal household without express permission. So if your scruffy terrier makes eyes at one of the king's prize dogs, you have a patriotic duty to intervene, lest you be accused of facilitating a romance that threatens the very stability of the monarchy. 47. In Boulder, Colorado, your choice of outdoor furniture could make you an outlaw. The city famously bans upholstered furniture, like couches and armchairs, from being kept on unenclosed front porches. The law was created to stop college students from turning their porches into shabby outdoor living rooms, citing fire hazards. It represents a beautiful culture clash, a city's quest for aesthetic order against a student's unalienable right to have a grimy, comfortable couch on their porch. 48. That classic childhood prank of ringing a doorbell and running away? In the UK, it's not just a prank, it's a criminal offense. The Town Police Clauses Act of 1847 specifically makes it illegal to willfully and wantonly disturb any inhabitant by pulling or ringing any doorbell. So those mischievous kids you see bolting down the street aren't just being annoying. In the eyes of a 175-year-old law, they are hardened criminals on the run. What's next on the legal chopping block? Making the floor is lava illegal on public sidewalks? It's a fine line between a rule that creates order and one that creates pure absurdity. These laws prove that line is often drawn in crayon by a toddler. Now I have to ask you, of all the insane rules you just heard, which one would you get rid of first? Let me know in the comments. And if this journey into legal madness earned your respect, show it with the buttons below. You know the ones.